President Trump's tariffs on products from Canada and Mexico expected to go into effect on Tuesday. A Mexican delegation was also in Washington this past week to try and reach any kind of agreement with the U.S. Mexico's foreign secretary met with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Thursday. Rubio expressed appreciation for Mexico's attempts to secure the border, including deploying 10,000 National Guard troops. If tariffs take effect, what impact would they have on the economy in Mexico? Juan Carlos Baker is a former Mexican deputy trade minister. He also helped negotiate the current trade deal between Mexico, Canada, and the U.S., and he joins us live this morning from Mexico City. Nice to see you, sir.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. So last year, the U.S. imported over $500 billion worth of goods from Mexico. If those tariffs go into place, if they are as high as 25%, can you give me a sense of the impact that will have on the Mexican economy?
Sure. There will be 2, maybe 3 immediate consequences of tariffs being imposed at those levels. The first one is that naturally markets are going to resent it. I believe that the short-term perspective for investment, economic activity in general, the exchange rate and other variables are going to suffer greatly. The second is that given the intertwined supply chains that we have between Mexico and the United States, as they are between Canada and the U.S., such a tariff would immediately have the effect of basically stopping certain industries, given that it will be much more expensive to send those inputs or raw materials from Mexico to the United States. Yeah. I've heard that some companies might stop 2 or 3 days after those tariffs were hypothetically beginning next Tuesday. So that would lead to the third consequence, which is obviously potential layoffs, the increases in prices in the United States, and just in general, a great deal of uncertainty between Mexico and the United States in general, but obviously for the Mexican economy even more so.
Yeah, and if these, we don't really know how this is going to unfold, let's be clear, either of us and neither of our country really knows. If it was 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum, which is going to happen presumably later in March, Mexico is one of the top suppliers of steel to the United States. Would the industry be shut down? Would it stop functioning if that goes ahead?
Actually, the trade in steel is not really from Mexico. The exports of steel to the United States are actually not that high. We're speaking about maybe between $5-6 billion. I mean, it's not also a small number, but clearly in that particular industry, the United States actually has a surplus vis-a-vis Mexico, which makes those tariffs even more difficult to understand. But clearly, the fact that we are in this scenario that we are discussing, the 25% across the board, plus the 25% on steel and aluminum that is set to go into effect on March 12th, will make matters even more complicated. If we go to that extreme, I would believe probably that the Mexican government will be forced to retaliate, because clearly there's no interest in settling down this matter from the White House, at least on a peaceful or on a constructive way, but rather it is just the sheer desire to impose tariffs.
Yeah. President Sheinbaum has responded very strongly, putting all those troops at the border, as I said off the top there. The Mexican government has also been turning over leaders of cartels, of drug cartels, to the United States to show action on that. Do you think that there's anything that Mexico could do to stop this from happening, given what you know about Donald Trump and what he says is his favorite word, tariffs?
I actually think that we have done a substantial amount of work, and not only in those elements that you are already mentioning, which are, I would say, probably the tangible, the visible outcome of the discussions of the past 3 weeks, but also in addition of setting the basis or the foundations for future work. You may probably have seen, and people in Canada probably have seen, that the cooperation of the authorities in the security areas, drug enforcement areas, intelligence cooperation and sharing have also escalated in the past few months to levels that we frankly did not see in the previous administration of President López Obrador. So it's not only about what the Mexican government on that front is delivering already, including extraditing cartel leaders and other actions, but also in terms of setting that cooperation and in terms of allowing the U.S. authorities to have more information and to perform other activities in the country that will certainly continue in years to come. So I would argue that Mexico has done its part. I would argue that Mexico kept its end of the bargain. Whether that is going to be enough to prevent tariffs, we just don't know. We will probably have to wait until Tuesday. But as some of the speakers in the previous segment with you were saying, if we are somehow able to go around the tariffs this coming Tuesday and then on the 12th of March, the reality is that Donald Trump will continue to attempt to do something in the 4 years that he will be in the White House. So we need to be prepared.
Yeah. Tell me, do you think that there is an alliance or something that Mexico and Canada should be doing together, that they should be working more closely together, given that we are in a free trade agreement, even if the main partner is no longer interested in keeping that agreement?
Well, I actually think that the U.S. is somehow, if not explicitly stating it, I don't think that Donald Trump actually wishes to destroy the USMCA or the CUSMA, as it's called in Canada. Because, if he really wanted to rewrite the rules of North America trading, he will just step out of the agreement and be done with it. But rather, the threat that he is constantly wielding against Canada and Mexico, perhaps he considers that it is much more effective for the purpose of his agenda, that is. Now, what Canada and Mexico are doing already, I think it's something that we should continue to do, stay in close communication, learn from each other, and especially as we go about the review of the USMCA, the CUSMA, that is set to happen in 2026. I believe that we should be repeating the work that we did on the original negotiation back in 2017, which is, make sure that we are aware of what are the interests of the other country, and if not, cooperate fully, because each country has its own objectives, and we will pursue them as we see fit, but clearly coordinate in certain areas where I believe that the two countries have a shared interest. For example, automotive, certain position vis-a-vis China, or even the mining of certain minerals that are in existence in Canada and Mexico. So I think we're doing okay, but we can certainly escalate that cooperation in years to come.
Juan Carlos Baker, thank you so much. I will come back to you and talk to you more as this all unfolds. Thank you for your time, sir.
My pleasure. See you soon.
Thank you.